so that we can start?
Yes, we can go ahead and start with these two binders, and then when the others come, that's the very end of the training, so that'll be fine.
Okay, perfect. So right now we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 14 staff, and that includes our workability aides, our ABAs, and our teachers.
Okay, well, we will go ahead and begin then. Sounds great. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Betsy.
First of all, I want to say you are a dedicated bunch if you came in on a Saturday for a training. So I'm thrilled to tell you about Project Discovery. I am in Tennessee and I have been using Project Discovery about 20 years. So I was looking for something for my students who were struggling with basic skills when they went out into the job force. I had a lot of students going out into work and they may be doing great one day and the next day they would get mad and quit their job. So we needed something to work in the classroom to prepare them for life outside the classroom. And I went to a training and I found out about Project Discovery, and it was a great benefit to our students. And the greatest part about it is that students will be able to, okay, somebody wants to know which box is the other binder in. It should be just a box that says life skills. I'm not sure. Yeah, and it'll be like a smaller box, and all that's in there is binders. No tubs or anything, just the binders.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so as I was going through this, students are able to expose to lots of different careers, and that's what transition really is all about, helping our students find out where they fit in life as we go. So as we go through today, it's very informal. Feel free to holler out if you have a question, but the vision and the mission of Education Associates is basically what we have as educators. Help our students be the best they can be, and we really want them to be prepared for real life when they get out and make the best of their life. And what I always say is everyone has a need to be wanted and have a place in life. They have a need to have a reason to get up every morning, and having a job will do that. So as you go through Project Discovery, you're going to see on the left of the screen all the demands that IDEA demands of us. And Project Discovery meets a lot of those demands. And it sounds like most of you are working with lower functioning students, but also the benefit of Project Discovery is it works with all levels, from our non-readers to our nonverbal, up to our high students with Asperger's even, who you can sit down and give one kit and they can go through it by themselves. But the majority of our students are students who need that extra support. So Project Discovery, and the great thing about when you get the adaptive, you get the higher level and the adaptive in the same kit. So as we go through, I'm going to start with the higher level students, and then we'll move down to the adaptive, which is the lower level students, which I think most of you do work for. The second list on the Project Discovery is help our students find out what type of learning style are they. Are they a visual learner? Are they an auditory learner? Or they're a kinesthetic learner? So I have found that most teachers are visual learners, and I have found most of our special needs students are auditory learners. So the great thing about this, whether you're visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, everyone benefits from hands-on kinesthetic learning. So all the activities are actually hands-on materials where you actually do hands-on activities. There are some worksheets along the way, but we focus on the hands-on component of it. Now, there's no right way or wrong way to do a kit. One of my friends who's been teaching it as long as we purchased the program, her favorite kit is the grocery clerk. And she spends a whole semester on grocery clerking. Whereas when I teach it, I spend about 6 weeks. So you can see the different levels of students you have will be the amount of time you spend with it. So you can do it teacher-led, which is many times with our lower functioning, you may have to do hand over hand. You may have to model all the activities, even bring those students to the front of the classroom and you work hand in hand with them, letting them do the activities. The main thing is we're exposing them to different careers, different things that they may be interested in. Another successful style to teach is the peer groups. This is what I usually like to do with my students. So I open a kit, we do the pre-test, we get all the data collected. Then what I do is I model each activity. Every kit has a different number of activities. So for example, if I'm doing the greenhouse and there's 8 activities, then I would model activity 1 on one day. The next day I might model activity 2 until I go through all of them. And then I might divide my room up into stations, much like you do in kindergarten with centers. So if you have a group set up in stations, you can have station 1, activity 1, station 2, activity 2. And then you can divide your group into groups of 2 or 3, depending on the number of students. And then they can rotate through the kits. I have found that to be very successful. And then the last way is the self-paced, where a student gets a kit and works by themselves. I really try to stay away from that because part of the kit's success is being able to teach the students how to work together. And employers have told me, you know, I can teach a student how to do a job, but I cannot teach them to work together with each other. So in school, if we will teach them that, when you go out into a job, it's teamwork. It's all about working together. It's not how fast you can do the job to get it done first. You work together as a team. So as you go through the activities, you'll find that is the most successful for our students. Another great thing it does, it connects school to work. You know, you're thinking, why am I learning this when you're in school? Well, they finally see a connection between why they're learning these activities, why they're learning this math, why they're learning this English, because it's going to go out into the real world. And that is the focus of this, is real life activities. Every activity you do somewhere in America, someone is doing that activity, because all the material in Project Discovery is researched and it comes from the Department of Labor. And like I say, each activity is a real job for somebody. So it's real. It's just not, you know, busy time work for you to give your students. It's actual things that they'll be able to do. And then the last one is actually our definition of transition. It helps a student identify what are your strengths, what are your interests, and what are your preferences. And through this, hopefully you're going to help the student develop a good IEP transition that will take them through life and be successful in doing that. So as I said, it is all research based. And what the research has found is that most students, and I would say all students, do better when they're doing a hands-on activity. They learn it and they won't forget it that way. So the first binder we're going to go on into is not the one that says adaptive. It's the one that says career exploration. And it's the green. So if you will take that out and you can look through it as I go. And if you have any questions, let me know. This is for our higher students. So many times in special ed, you'll be working with a group of lower functioning students. And then in 2 years from now, you may have a higher group. So you're going to have materials from both binders that you can pull from as you're teaching the different careers. So when you first look in there, you're going to find a thumb drive that looks like this. Everything that is in the notebook is on that thumb drive. So for example, if you want to do the pre-test, go through the thumb drive, put it in your computer, and go ahead and print it out that way. If you're going to do the data collecting, it's on the thumb drive. So everything in the notebook is in the thumb drive. And I would think it's very beneficial if you make a copy of that and then keep a copy of the original in a location that everyone can find it. I've had some of my friends who have taught these with their thumb drive. They may go to a computer in a different room and they leave it in that computer, and then they can't remember which computer they left it in. And nobody knows in the school what education associate is. So it never finds its way back to special ed. So I would make a copy, and then you'll have the copy for you to keep with you. Other schools that do the Google Drive, they can download this to the Google Drive, and then teachers will be able to go into it and pull what they need from each kit as you go through. And as we go through, the first thing, if you turn into section 1, you're going to see a table, a content list of everything that's in the tub. So as you're going through each activity, what I always suggest is to do a inventory. Someone across America does inventory for every business out there. So it's a good way for students to be exposed of what's in this kit and what we're actually going to do. So how I usually do it is I spread all the materials in the front of the room, and then I will come up and have students get 3 or 4 items. And then I'm going to go down there, and on the screen, you can see we're looking at the greenhouse. All the things that have an asterisk beside them are things in the notebook. And then it starts with numbers, 1703. So what I'm going to have on each activity, there is a barcode with the number, or it will tell what it is. Down below, you'll see where it says Petri dish. On that barcode, instead of having a number, it will say Petri dish. So I'm going to say, we're going to start with the inventory. Who has 1703? Who has 1710? And we're going to check off each item. The students can come to the front of the room and check off each item as we go. When you get into some of the kits like carpentry, they have like 5 different screwdrivers. So each screwdriver has a specific name, or they will have a specific barcode with a number. That way you'll know if you have all of that as you go through. So it's a good idea before you start each kit, go and do an inventory, so you make sure you have all your materials when you get ready to do it. Now turn into section 1 and flip over past the content list, and you're going to see a module overview. This is going to tell you exactly what you're going to be doing in this kit. So it'll just kind of give you a general idea. And then it's going to have a list of the activities. And as I told you earlier, every kit has a different number of activities. We're looking at greenhouse on the screen, and it has 8 activities. I know in some of them, caregiver has 12 activities. Table service only has 3, but activity 1 in table service is divided into several different options, and you may have 2 or 3 weeks of work doing activity 1. So you can see they're all customized. And activity 1 is like a foundation. So it's best to do the activities in order. First one is testing seeds for germination. The next is mixing potting soil. And then it jumps all the way down to activity 5. You are doing stem cuttings. Activity 7 is graphage. So you can see this is higher order thinking. Now, when we get into the adaptive, we're going to be doing some of these same activities, but it's broken down into a level so our students are exposed to the different careers, the different things people do in greenhouse, but it's on their level. Flip over to the next area. You're going to see materials in the program. Again, this is just a list of the materials that are in the tub. Next, you're going to see materials needed. These are things that are not shipped to you, but you will have to get these before you begin. For example, in the greenhouse, you'll need to get an African violet. You'll have to get water. What I have found in some of the, also you'll have to get soil and sand. What I have found, I have a lot of students out working in the community, so I have a good connection with lots of businesses in my area. So we have a really good relationship with the local Lowe's, greenhouse. If I need an African violet, I can go to the greenhouse and ask them to donate that along with some soil and some sand, and they are more than willing to donate it to schools. They don't like to give money, but they love to give to community schools because that makes them look like a good community leader. So what I do is I tell them the items I need, and then I'll take some of my students with me, and we'll have a picture made for the paper to show that Lowe's has donated the materials. So that is exactly what the materials you'll need before you get going. Now, the next part, the career cluster correlation, this is a really key, important deal for you to have when you get ready to do an IEP. When I first started in special ed many moons ago, we would sit into an IEP meeting and we would say to the student when it got ready for transition time, what do you want to do when you graduate from high school? Well, we had crazy ideas. One of my students, many of my students have said this, I want to play for the Atlanta Braves. Well, we are about 2 hours from Atlanta, so that's everybody's team in Tennessee is Atlanta Braves. This student may not even be on the baseball team. So, back in the day, we would write, he's going to play for the Atlanta Braves, which we knew would never happen. Now we have to be more realistic with our planning. So this is a place that you can redirect the student and look at this cluster and see if the student really does well in greenhouse, then I might find a career here that they're interested in. So my example of my student about 10 years ago, he told me he wanted to play for the Atlanta Braves. I knew we had been through the greenhouse and he had done really well. So I pulled out this correlation, and the very first one was a groundskeeper. And I started thinking, every baseball team has a groundskeeper to keep their fields going. So we brainstormed and talked about him going on a job shadowing activity to Chattanooga, which is only 30 miles away, to do a job shadowing at the Chattanooga Lookouts, which is a minor league team. Our school psychologist's husband was the manager of the Lookouts. So we set it up through her and him to let this student hang with the grounds crew. Well, that was a great opportunity for our student to still be around something he loved, like baseball. And then this was a job he would be able to do, to be a groundskeeper. So this will really be an important thing for you to keep in the back of your mind when you're writing IEPs and when you're trying to assist students. The next thing, the notes to teachers. These are just things, little tips as you go. Like it says activities 5, 6, and 7. Make sure you go over the safety procedures before you get ready to do this activity. So it's just some notes for you as a teacher. The next few pages, you're going to see something: required knowledge, manipulative skills, conceptual skills, and acquired knowledge. The required knowledge is basically, like I told you earlier, the foundation is activity 1. Activity 2, you might need to know what activity 1 was about. So in order to keep everybody straight, just do them in order. The other great one is the acquired knowledge. When you're writing an IEP and you're going to be teaching greenhouse, look at this acquired knowledge, and these can be your IEP goals. I'm telling you, parents absolutely love it when they see new IEP goals instead of the same goal that they've been hearing since kindergarten. The student will identify 8 out of 10 times, blah, 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 blah. So these are actually real life connections, real life goals that you can put down for your students. And that's under the acquired knowledge. The next page, you're going to see a scope and sequence. This binder you're looking at now has all been written in 10-day lesson plans, 10-day scope and sequence. Excuse me, I've never been able to teach one in 10 days. So as I said earlier, I would usually, like for the greenhouse, it lasted 6 weeks. I have used them up to 2 months. but most of them last about 6 weeks. You as a teacher, you can add things as you want to, like my friend that teaches the grocery clerking. She decided that she was going to make it a whole semester long and adding activities that she thought of. So in the grocery clerking, it comes with empty boxes of different items. So anytime she would empty a box at her house, she would bring it to her room. And when you walk into her room, it looks like a grocery store. She's got shelving, and then it's just lined up with all kinds of empty boxes of things you would find in the grocery store. Like one example of something she's added, they learn how to read labels. So one day she said, we're going to compare how much sugar is in boxes of cereal. So she has like 10 boxes, and students go, they read the label, and they find out how much sugar is in all the different cereal boxes. So from the kit, she's expanded it to more things. And there's no right way or wrong way to teach a kit. Feel free to do that, because that makes the kit come more to life and the subject you're teaching, like greenhouse. The next page you see is called the job qualification profile. And in the front tab of your notebook, I just dropped mine, you're going to see this right here, which says a guide to using the job qualifications profile. This is what was written by the Department of Labor. So it's a lot of data. Basically, I don't really ever use this. It's there if you want to. The only thing I might look at is the last one is the physical demands. It might need, like I'm looking at greenhouse, activity 1, it says physical demands. They might need to have light lifting. They might not be able to reach. They might need to feel, and they might need to be able to see what they're doing. So that will just give you the physical demands. And that is written, that's the same one in every binder, but it has different codes and different numbers for each activity. It's there if you want to. The next few pages, you're going to see vocabulary. So in every one of the kits, there's a term, vocabulary terms. So what I do, I told you, I have my room into stations. One of my stations is an art station. And what I do is I put the vocabulary words there with a lot of art supplies. And then the students have the option to, when they get there, if they're artistic, make a collage, write the words in different colors, whatever they want to do. If they're not artistic, they have the option of just writing the words and the definitions, put them in alphabetical order, whatever they want to do with the vocabulary. You could do a word wall. It's just really up to you. That's when you have your creative touch you can add to it. Then you're going to see some writing portfolio activities. So I would begin now, have it in notebook on each student, and this notebook can follow them through. It's like a transition notebook. If they do something with the vocabulary, put that in the notebook. If you have them do some of these writing portfolio activities, put that in your notebook. Now, again, this is for our higher students. Some of this is research for them to go on the computer and research the different careers, but that is something you can put into that notebook. The last one is community involvement. And this is really something we're big on at Education Associates, because you want to connect what you're doing in the classroom to real life. So we always would go on a field trip after each one of the kits. We wanted to connect this job to what we're learning in the high school. For example, with the greenhouse, we always went to Lowe's. But if you want to pick something different, go back to that first thing we looked at, where was the career cluster. Look at all the different jobs. Okay, you can go to a florist. That would be really, really interesting. But when COVID hit, that kind of put all our field trips on hold. So what I have found is there are thousands of virtual field trips online. So for example, if you're wanting to do greenhouse, Google field trip to a florist, and you can show that. Since COVID is getting better, we're able to start taking field trips again. but I still think those online videos are really great to show in the class because you can show all the different careers that are connected to greenhouse besides just going to a greenhouse and see. So it's very interesting, especially, even the groundskeeper, you can show what they do at a baseball game. So that really connects it to our students. Um, the next thing you see is a pre-test. This is a pre and a post test. I have found that if I gave this quiz to my students, there's too many words, so they're not even going to try. But this test is on that thumb drive. So pull up the quiz, the test. You can go in and customize it. So like greenhouse, I would teach it their freshman year, their sophomore year, the junior year, and senior year. They've taken it 4 times. So on their freshman year, what I would do is I would go in and just pick 4 questions, and then I would give them only 2 choices. So you can cut and paste. And then after we do all the activities, we would come back and take the post test, and I'd give them the same 4 questions. Well, their sophomore year, I may give 5 questions with 2 answers. My students will try when they only have 2 choices and not as many words as this. Then maybe their junior year, I might go back to 4 questions and give 3 choices for answers. And then their senior year, maybe 5 questions with 3 choices. So it's great to customize and do whatever fits the needs of your students. This again, when you collect the pre and the post test, this is your data that you can use in your IEP meeting. When you're collecting data, when you're doing progress monitoring, this right here is already there for you. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but put it in that notebook. Now, this is a really valuable tool. This is a benchmark. This is more like a task analysis. It breaks each activity into, like testing seeds for germination. It's been broken into 5 different parts. So you've already modeled, the student has practiced a few times, and then like on Fridays is usually the day I would score them. So on this, I'm looking at them and I'm watching how they're going to do on each one of the steps. This is what the scorecard looks like, basically. We're looking at electricity here. So let's go to activity 2. It's divided into 4, A, B, C, D. At the top, you're going to write the student's name, and where it says trial number, I'm going to put today's date in red ink. Okay, I've watched them. Activity 2, A, whatever that is, they got a 1. Activity B, they got a 2. Activity 3, they got a 1. Activity D, they got a 1. So what I'm going to do is average those. They got a 1, they got 3 1s and a 2. That averages to be a 1. So I would circle the 1 above it in red ink. Okay, next week I might let them try again. So on the 2 there, I might do it in black ink. I would put next week's date in black ink. Then I would watch them. We're doing activity 2 again. Under A, they got a 2. B, they got a 2. C, they got a 2. And D, they got a 1. So they've improved, and they average would be 2. So I would circle that in black ink. The next week, 3rd time, I would put that maybe in green ink. And you can see how you can monitor this, and you can see progress as it's being made. Then you'll be able to, keep that in their notebook too as you go. I've also found that if every student does bad on D, I might need to reteach that and show the students one more time how to do it. Now, that's how you do it for assessment. If you want to do it for career awareness, I would do activity 1, they would do it, and I'd say, did you enjoy doing that? Yes or no. Onto the right where it says yes or no, I would circle yes. Activity 2, they've done it all. Did you enjoy doing it? No. Activity 3, they did all the activities, and it's divided into several parts. Did you enjoy doing that? No. After they do all the activities, I would count up if they have more yeses than nos. More no's, and I'm going to say this might not be a career you're interested in. If they have all yeses or more yeses than nos, then you're going to say this is a career I might want to do. This is also on the thumb drive in a digital form that you can do it with drop down boxes and a place for you to put notes. So all you young teachers will love this, and then you print it out and put it in the notebook. So you have both those options as you go through. Then not all the kits have worksheets in this binder, but when we get into the adaptive, there's 4 worksheets for each activity. As you can see, we're organizing medications with the caregiver. This is pretty high order thinking. They've got 7 medications that they're going to divide over 7 days, 4 times a day. That is hard for me to think about. So again, it's on that thumb drive. You can go in and maybe just give them 2 medications and let them sort the 2 medications over that time. And then if you teach it the next year, increase it to 3. When you get into the adaptive, you're going to see we have an adaptive form that is more realistic for our lower functioning students. So these are some really great things to keep in your notebook. Now that was section 1. Move on to section 2. This is your first look PowerPoint. I love this. It's written in 2nd to 4th grade level, but it is a read aloud. So it has a real life picture and just a few sentences on each page. So students hate high school textbooks because it's all words, and that's just too much for them to read. But if you divide it up in just a few sentences on each page, they will be more likely to try. The great thing about this, it also comes with the read aloud, and this is how it sounds.
The little plants that grow are called seedlings. The seedlings will grow into big plants. Seedlings look like this.
So you can see how this is something that is really realistic to them. Again, I told you I had my room and stations. I've got each activity. I've got the art station with vocabulary. Well, I have a listening station with the first look book. You know, when I begin teaching it, you know, we first do the inventory, then we do the pretest. Then I might have a speaker come in and talk to the students. Then I would go over this whole first look book, and it's going to kind of give them a taste of what activities we're going to be doing. Then when we divide the students into different stations, this is when they can go to that will be a listening station. There's a laptop there or a computer, and there's headphones so they can flip through it as they go. But to keep them on task, I tell them when they come to a word that's a different color or in bold, that's a vocabulary word. Write that down. So this is a really great tool to keep our students down to their level. Now flip to section 3. These are your actual lesson plans. So this is the teacher, it's what you're going to go to when you get ready to teach it. Again, this is our higher level students, but it does have it broken down into, you can see in that middle picture, materials you need. It's got a picture of the seeds. It's got a picture of the filter paper and a picture of the Petri dishes. So that's the materials they will need to go get. And then it's going to give you the procedure with a real life picture showing what you do for step 1, what you do for step 2. So it's broken down and it's very easy to do. Even if you get into something you know nothing about, the step-by-step directions will help you as a teacher to go through. So I tell teachers, the first kit you may want to teach is something that you think you would do really well or something you really enjoy. Teach that. Then for your next one, I would get one that's going to be a little more difficult for you. One of my friends, she did the plumbing. She knew nothing about plumbing, but they actually learned how to plumb and how you cut the pipe and you put it together and you seal it with all the materials. And she said it was so simple with the directions like this for the students. On your thumb drive, you're going to have all the Word files and a PDF file of everything that's in the notebook, like I said. You also will have a certificate of accomplishment, as you see on the screen, where you can customize the students' names and put that in there when they finish. I usually make 2 copies, one to go in their notebook, and then one they can take home and show their parents. Another friend of mine at her school, when they award the seniors at the end, or when they have awards day at the end of the semester, her students are even awarded their certificate of accomplishment at that awards day, because so many of our students are never recognized, and this is something they've accomplished. There's also a parent involvement brochure. You know, it's really important to involve parents, and when they get to high school, many parents are not involved. But as I go through each of my kits, I do try to invite a guest speaker in. When we did hair care, one of my students' mother was a beautician, so she came in and talked about what she did as a beautician. One of them, the nail care, one of my students' mom did nails, so she came in and talked about her schooling and what she had to do. When you do the auto body repair, one of my students' dad worked on cars, so he came in, and then we went to his shop at the end of the semester for our field trip. So what you're going to do is do your inventory. Then you're going to read through all the activities. Be familiar with what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Don't wait till the day you're going to teach activity 1 and pull it all out and try to teach it then. You may need something that you overlooked, you didn't bring with you that day. So be sure to be familiar with it. Then give the pre-test. Then you model activity 1. Then the students can do they can do activity 1. Then go through all the activities. As you go through them, do the benchmarks whenever possible. And then after you do all the activities, do the post-test. And basically, it's that simple when you do one of the kits. So does anybody have any questions on this binder? Okay, let's go to the adaptive. Now, this one is my favorite binder, because so many times in special ed, our lower functioning students, our students who needed more support, had nothing. They had no curriculum, and they especially had nothing that was related to transition. So this adaptive career came around about 10 years ago, and it's awesome because it really does expose our students to all these careers we're talking about, and it's on a level that they can do. So there's so much in this notebook. You can see how much thicker it is than the other binder. There's an interactive pre and post test. You know, the other one was the 12 questions that I always tweaked, but this one is an interactive one. We have a first look book that's written even on a lower level. The student instructions are actually videoed for a student that looks like them, someone in high school, a student that looks like them, doing the activity that they're going to do, which they added that about 5 years, and it's great. Then you're going to see some academic worksheets, vocabulary cards, bingo games, a board game, role play, situation cards, a social story about going out in the community. So everything that's in this notebook, again, is on that little thumb drive that's in the front of your binder. So don't lose that as you go through this. If you'll open to the front, the first thing you see is a table of contents. For example, I'm going to teach table service, and I think I'm going to start with the bingo game. So I'm going to look table of contents. Every one of the adaptive binder has a bingo game, but it's in a different section. This one might be in J, and another one might be in K. So you'll just need to go through that, and that'll help you get through it as you go. Turn to tab A. This is kind of an overview of the unit, just like we saw earlier. It's going to tell you what's in this binder. And turn to You See This Page. This is like 3 columns. And in this, it was going to tell you about the different students. This is basically, we're talking about, I was going to show you mine. This is what it looks like. 3 columns. So the first one is the typical classroom activities. This is the student we saw before in that other binder, your higher functioning student that does not need as much support. So it's going to give you a day by day what you're going to do each day. Then the second and third column are more for our students who need more support. The ladies who first came up with this, they did the middle column, and then they said, you know, I can think of some more things we can do. Let's add the third column. So basically, I do the third column with all of my students. So your first column will be that higher group, and then the students that most of you are working with, you're going to use that third column. So it will give you the same thing that's in the second column, but it's got more information. So the first thing you're going to see after you pass that is ways to implement it. What's going to be the best for your students? Then it's going to talk about your data collecting. And this is the data collection. This is what the pre-test looks like. So it's much simpler than the one we saw earlier. Basically, it's going to give you pictures of everything. Okay, which one is a fork? That's what it looks like. And then the data sheet is like the benchmark we saw earlier. And it was divided and broken down into a task analysis. We're looking at setting a table, and this activity one is divided into 16 steps. So you can see that really helps with our lower functioning students. Also in this, like I said earlier, vocabulary, worksheets, student instructions, visual schedules, and video modeling. If you flip over a few pages, you're going to see something that says system of least prompts and time delay. These are your lowest students who really need extra support. I never had this low students in my group. They were in another classroom, so I didn't really have to do this, but this is there for you to show you how to break it into even smaller tasks until you have a chain broken down into single steps, and then it will eventually become the whole activity one. So it will help you in how to do the time delay as you go through. And it's really big on the airless technique, not saying, no, that's not right. It's just going to redirect the student into the correct way. In that tab A, there are 4 worksheets, which are just going to kind of give you an overview of what you're going to do. We're looking at table service again. The first worksheet is circle the pictures related to table service. Now, one way that when smart boards came along, this will load up into your smart board, and you can put this on the screen. And the first one is circle the picture related to table service. So everyone might have a worksheet, and then one of the students will come to the front and circle either a fork or a garden tool. So which one of them has to do with table service? And then they can model for the whole class to do. The second worksheet says circle and find the same. So again, you can put it on the smart board, and the student has a napkin, and they're going to circle which one is the same. Also, you're going to have a vocabulary board. So what I usually would do with this is I laminate it, and then I cut it into each one of the words. And this is a great way to do memory games, flashcards, matching activities. If I do a word wall, we will, put these in alphabetical order and put it up there, because it's great that you have a real picture with what the example is. So it will show you that. You have students with communication devices. This will download into that communication device. Now, this is what the pre-test looks like. So you're going to have 4 pictures. Which place setting is complete? So if they guess A, which is incorrect, it's going to go to the next question. If they get it correct, which is C, it's going to go to congratulations, good job. As you're watching them one-on-one, you'll have a score form like this, 10 questions, and then you're going to put, did they get it correct or incorrect? Then after you do all the activities, you'll give the same test. And again, they'll do correct or incorrect. What I say about this, it's really hard for you to find time to do each individual student. So another way that I have done it is put maybe 6 students at a table, give each one of them a small whiteboard, and then I put this picture up on the screen, which place setting is complete. And I tell them to write A, B, C, or D. Then I go around with a clipboard and I will put, okay, Sally put A, Johnny put A, Mary put C. And then during my planning period, I'll script it over to this. So then that way I will have a way to keep up with it. Again, that just makes more use of your time as you go through. The next tab, you're going to see a first look book. It's just like the one we saw earlier, where it will read aloud. You can print it out for them to do it as a listening station. I usually do it again in front of my whole class, and we go through it and let it read it aloud. It's got the vocabulary highlighted, and students can write those. Now, when you get into tab D, that is your first activity. And tab D through the rest of the tabs are going to be one activity each tab, depending on how many activities for that. So in each activity, you're going to have teacher instructions, you'll have the data sheets, you'll have the visual schedule, you'll have student instruction, and you'll have 4 worksheets connected to that one activity. And then throughout there will be the bingo, the board game, the other things that we talked about. This is what it looks like in activity 1. First thing you'll see is what you're going to be doing. Then it says manipulative skills, what kind of fine motor and gross motor they'll need. Conceptual, they're going to be understanding, translating, and acquired knowledge. The acquired knowledge, again, can be an IEP goal. So go back to your IEP, and if you know your teaching table service, then you can write those. Each activity will have a different acquired knowledge. So you can just pick several from each activity and put that down for your IEP goal. This is your data sheet. Now, as you can see, before we had that other one with the benchmarks. You're going to have across the top the date, so you can do it 5 different times. Again, I do it with different colored ink because I just like to see the contrast. I'm going to watch the student gather the materials. Oh, they did that. They got all the materials. So if they did it independently, look at the very bottom, there's a key. If they did it independently, they're going to get 6 points. So I will put a 6 up there. Wash your hands. They forgot to wash their hands. So if you can see it says no response, I would give them a 0. Wipe the table. They forgot to wipe the table. I would give a 0. They went straight from gathering the materials to step 4, place the placemat on the table. So again, that's how you would do it with the number system. First of all, I've modeled it, and then I can put my students into stations. I've also had the advantage of having peer tutors, regular ed students who come in and assist. So I can put maybe 2 or 3 students in a station, and then the peer tutor can read what they've got to do, or she can collect the data on this and go through it. One of them is gesture. She might give a gesture. Don't forget, you got to wash your hands. And so I would give a 5 on that. Now, that's a lot of time to do this. So the first time I do it, I would do it the number system. Second, third, and fourth, what I would do is I would do, as you can see, the smiley faces. Gathered the materials, I gave them a smiley face. Washed their hands, they forgot, so I gave a sad face. Wiped the table, they forgot, so I gave a sad face. And afterwards, that will be real to them because they know what a smiley face means. They did a great job. Sad face, I'll say, you forgot to wash your hands. You forgot to use that visual schedule to keep yourself on track. And then the fifth time, I would do the numbers again, like the 6, the 5. That way, uh, I will have some numbers and I can use that in collecting data. I can use it in progress monitoring. I can use it in my IEP meetings. So it's very easy to use. This is the visual schedule I was telling you about. So you've already modeled it. You've divided the room into stations. So station 1, they're setting a table. If you've got 2 students working together, one of them can gather the materials and the other one will check it off. Now, if they had followed this visual schedule, they would have saw they were supposed to wash their hands next, and they would not have got a sad face. So wash your hands, check it off. Wipe the table, check it off. Set the placemat. So you can see that really encourages independence, and students will be able to do it without asking you questions throughout it. It gives them all the activities. Then I love it at the end, they get to do a self-assessment. They will either give themselves a happy face or a straight across face or a sad face. How do you think you did? Of course, most of them always think they do a great job, so they circled the smiley face. Here's your student instructions. You will have the student instructions at the station along with the visual schedule. So they're going to have 2 things to keep them independent. It's going to show them, the other one said gather your materials. So here it's going to show them all the items they need to get with the picture, show them how to wash their hands, show how to wipe the table. So this is the real life pictures. Then the video modeling. So what I usually do is I model it, then I show them the video, then I put them into the stations. And so they've been able to see each activity. And you might want to spend longer on the first activity. I modeled it, then we watched the video, then the students can come in front of the classroom and demonstrate for everybody. And you can take turns that way. So again, whatever works for your students is the best way to do. But the video modeling has really been effective with our students, helping them become more independent. Then there are 4 worksheets at each activity, a lot of math, some of them are vocabulary, some of them are literacy. We're showing the math ones. The first one's is subtraction. The next one's addition. The last one's multiplication. It says how many screwdrivers in the toolbox. So they would put a 2. How many toolboxes there are 4. And then you make a multiplication problem. So from this, what they can do is get a calculator out. So they're being exposed to that. Each one of the adaptive have a geometry activity in there. They're plotting points. For example, if you're at a greenhouse, you're going to plot the points in a greenhouse. Point A may be where the green plants are. Point B may be where the door is. Point C may be where the cash register is. So again, you're going to see a lot of functional math integration. Then you're going to see a dictionary. So this is a great way to put them in alphabetical order. Students who are non-writers, they can trace or they can use pictures and glue them in there. The situation cards, most of my students are not able to read these. So usually what we do is we do them aloud. I'm going to read, Beth is getting ready to take an order from a family. When she realizes she left her pencil in the kitchen, Beth should A, go back to the kitchen and get her pencil, B, ask one of the customers for a pencil, or C, take the orders and hope she can remember all of them. So we would vote who all thinks it's A, who thinks it's B, who thinks it's C. And then we would go through each one of them talking about why do you think she should go back to the kitchen and get her pencil? Why is it not appropriate to ask a customer for a pencil? And why is it not appropriate to hope she can remember all of it? So they're more like social skills, but the students love these. And these can also be used with that other binder. So again, pick and choose the things you can use with your students. Here's the bingo. Every card is different, so they won't all bingo at the same time. You can laminate these. Role play is much like the situation cards. You and your parapro can act it out. It's more of a, again, interaction, social stories that students can connect to the real world. The board game, laminate it, and that can be one of your stations. 2 students can play that, or 3. Then we go into the field trip that we want to take. This is the social story. My class is going to a restaurant. We will visit a waiter or waitress. I will get on the bus. So you practice all these things before you go. We always practice who's going to sit beside each other and how we're going to get on the bus and how we're going to get off. Then when you get back, you want to write a report. This again can be used with that other binder, because I have found high school students hate to write. So you have students who are non-writers. You can ask these questions to them and they can give you the answer and you can write the answer. Or you give them a computer and pull this up and let them fill it in. Whatever works for your students. Then we want to write a thank you letter to the business. I've seen these all over town because, again, it makes businesses look good when they open their doors to education into schools. So it's very simple. This is the quick start. Do the inventory, read through everything, be prepared, do the pre-test, then do activity 1, do the data sheet, go through all the activities, and then do the post-test. So it comes out, everything that's in the binder, again, is on that thumb drive. Anybody have any questions on the adaptive one? I think after you teach the first one, you'll see how simple it is and how easy it is to follow, because it's all there for your students. Now, next we're going to get into our binder. This is our, well, I'm looking at interviewing for a job. This is way higher than all of my students' reading levels. So what I do is I read it all aloud. It comes with 10 to 12 hours of instruction. So what, like I might pick a Friday and we're going to go interviewing for a job and spend an hour every Friday. It comes in different reading levels. The differentiated instruction is 3rd to 4th and 6th to 8th. So even my higher functioning students don't even read that high. So you're going to see most of it, you're going to have to read aloud with your students. But if you do have some higher ones, you'll be able to integrate it into your classroom. It comes with a pre and a post test. It comes with 10 instructional hours per title. So usually what I do is on my first 5 days, I will do all the activities for the 3rd and 4th grade. Then the next 5 days, I'll do all the 6th through 8th. So they've had 2 weeks or 10 days or 10 hours of instruction in interviewing for a job. So first thing you see as you open it up is an overview, like we've seen before, how you're going to implement it with your students, your different levels. Then you're going to see a scope and sequence. So here again, the day 1, I'm going to do the 3rd and 4th grade. Day 2, I'll do 3rd and 4th till I do the first 5 days. Then the next 5 days, I'll do the 6th through 8th, like I say. There is a scoring rubric. The only one I use for my students is this class and group participation, because I really feel like our students need to be exposed to getting up in front of others, participating, and not wanting to sleep. So this, I'm going to give that. Do they follow instructions? Do they offer ideas? Do they take turns? Do they listen to others? Do they really actually participate? Then some of the others get into way high order thinking. But my friend who teaches inclusion, she uses these rubrics when they're writing research papers, because all of it is beneficial to staying on task with the rubric. So here's the competencies in section 2 for your 3rd to 4th grade. These also can be your IEP goals. The student will discuss the purpose of a job interview. They're going to be prepared for a job interview. They're going to learn how to write a follow-up letter after a job interview. So in this, the first thing you see is a first look pre and post test. And again, I don't really use this pre and post test unless I'm sitting one-on-one with the student. I usually do it in the large group because it's pretty high order thinking. This is a question. Which person is dressed right for a job interview? So we're going to vote. Everybody for A, raise your hand. Everybody for B, raise your hand. And then we're going to talk about everybody that voted A, why do you think she's dressed correct? Everybody that voted for B, why do you think it is? So that way we've kind of discussed it. Now, if you are doing it with your one-on-one student, the way you would do this, if they got B correct, it's going to go up to the top, great job. If you got A, it's going to go to the question and it'll have the answer again. So that way it reinforces the errorless technique. Then at the end of that, you're going to see a PowerPoint like we saw earlier. First look with the vocabulary highlighted. That goes along right with that. And again, you can read it and then you can talk about it. Even with my lower functioning, we talked about making a good impression. We talked about being on time. And then after we did this one, we actually participated in mock interviews. You know, I even had one of the cafeteria workers come in and pretend she was going to hire them in the cafeteria, and they interviewed that way. So it's a good way for students to be exposed to this. And then at the end of section 2, there are some worksheets. The first one is a matching worksheet. You can see the top 4 in blue. Those are the 4 they match with the 4 on the other side. And then the bottom 4 are in red, matched with those 4. And we did this because my students do better answering only 4 than they do 8. So, you know, you can give them only the 4 and cut it in half, or you can do it in the large group. The second was the math think it over, which is basic math word problems. And all students freak out with math word problems, but you can see they're all related to a transition. Like these are all concerned about a interviewing for a job. For example, Gary went on his first job interview on October 4th. The boss called him on October 27th. How many days did he wait on the boss to call? So it's simple subtraction. So again, I would model this to my students. What are our 2 important numbers? Are we going to add or subtract? So you can work it out as a group. I love the math because they're all related to whatever the title is you're looking at. The bottom one's another one. Margarita was offered 2 jobs. Job 1, she would work 35 hours per week and make $9 per hour. Job 2, she would work 40 hours per week and make $8 per hour. So, you know, we would model those and students would get their calculators out, come up with the 2 numbers, and then we're going to say, compare which one would she make the most money at. So again, it's just thinking aloud and helping our students use high order thinking. The next one is being prepared for a job interview. The top one talks about, you know, have clean teeth, clean clothes. I've got my resume. I have transportation. The bottom 2 questions are really important for our students. Tell me about your skills. Well, a lot of our students have never said anything positive about themselves. So I might have the class share about Sally today. Everybody tell me something good about Sally. She's friendly. She's always at school. She's on time. These are things that they can write in their resume, and they can also talk about when they go for job interviews. And then tell me about some of your jobs you've had. Well, many of our students have never had jobs, but they've had training in these kits. So they can say, well, I was trained on how to set tables. I was trained on caregiver. That will give them some more things to put down for that. Section 3 is your 6th to 8th grade reading level. Again, it's competencies, much like we saw earlier, but the other one said discuss how to be prepared. Now it says you've got to list 5 ways. So you can see it's higher for students. In this, the pre and post tests are all true, false, which sometimes true, false are the hardest test. Again, you've got your score form, but I don't use it as a test. I use it more as a discussion time. How you can see how this will be thrown in, like you have an extra hour one day, you can pull out one of these and use that. The first question is, you should arrive at the interview about 10 minutes early. And then we vote. Who thinks that's true? Who thinks it's false? Then we talk about why it's important to arrive early. And you can even connect it to school. You should arrive at school early. Don't be late. And at the end of that, you're going to see another instructional PowerPoint, but it's read more like a quiz, and then it gives a tutorial. What's the purpose of a job interview? You got your answers. And then after you go yes or no, it goes down into like that first look book. So you can see the student has already been exposed with that lower level, and now they're being exposed to the same thing, but at a different level. Here's the worksheets, and as you can see, this is a little higher. It's not asking you the question, but it's giving you a format, how to write a letter. And this is an example of the rubric. That is way over my kids' heads. I do well if they put a capital at the beginning and a period at the end. But it's there if you ever need it or your coworkers need it. All of this is on the thumb drive, just like you had before. This is what it looks like. So if you're going to decide that you're going to do the 3rd and 4th, you would click on section 2. Another thing is if you only want to do the 3rd and 4th, feel free to do that. Or if you want to do the 3rd and 4th their freshman year, and then the sophomore year, do the 6th, 8th. Again, no right or wrong way to do. So it's very simple as you go. So review your instructor notes, get the materials that you think you're going to do, right? Do both of mine. Do the pre-test if you're going to. Go through all the instruction, and then at the end, do the worksheets, and then do the post-test. So this is how this binder works, and it's more just like an addition to the kits that you already have. Any questions on that? So what I would encourage you to do, if y'all are going to be there for a while, is go ahead and go through the kits at the beginning, or pick a kit, whichever binder you have, and go through the inventory, because it's better to find out that something's missing that Education Associates did not send you, and then you can send me the things that are missing. We can have that sent to you. Don't wait 2 months from now when you get into it. It's better to make sure everything's there now, because I don't think anybody's done an inventory. So the way to do it is if you open one of the tubs, in the lid is a list of all the materials in there. So you can go through and actually check off that. So that is a whirlwind of all the materials you have. Do we have any questions? You probably won't have questions until you get into a teaching. And if you do at that point, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll be glad to answer and help you in any way. So Adrienne, do we have any questions?
No, we don't have any questions right now, but can we take about a 5-minute break?
Yes. Well, this wraps up the training unless you have something else.
Oh, we have a question. Can you hear from, we're gonna have Karen ask a question, and if you can't hear, then she'll come closer to the computer.
Okay, go ahead.
You just had mentioned some of the computer online training. I couldn't find it in the notebook that I was looking through, so I wasn't sure if, like the field trips online and stuff like that. The one that I had didn't have, I was looking for it, I couldn't find it, so.
Okay, did you go to Google and just online field trip to a florist?
Oh, is that, so I just have to look for it myself?
Yes, you'll just have to do that separate.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, it doesn't appear that we do, but you're right. As we start applying the equipment in the classroom, I believe that's where our questions will come from.
So is there does she have a contact email that we can email her if we do have a question as they come up?
Adrian, you have my email, don't you?
Yes, our team has your email.
Okay, so feel free, like I say, to email me. But go ahead today, Adrian, encourage everybody to do the inventory, and then you can let me know if anything's missing.
Okay, that sounds good.
The only thing, so I have the packing slip. And something that you said at the very beginning, which is like a job training. What were you talking about? There was a different binder that you said that we needed to have.
The one is the last one we just went over, the life skills.
Okay, I do not have that one.
You do not have any of those binders?
No, I have plenty of life skills ones, but not exactly the one that you were talking about.
Oh, well, that's okay. There's like 64 different ones, and your district purchased different ones.
Okay, so we purchased a bunch of them, but we don't have that one. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
so you have different ones, but they're all basically the same. So once you see how it's all laid out, then you'll be able to teach the one that you have.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is this the only one that addresses interviewing skills?
Yes, this one is the one. There's like one on resume, but this is the only one that addresses interview skills.
Okay.
Now, if you go to educationassociates.com, they will have a list of all 64 titles. And if you see some that you would really like to have, maybe you can, send it to your director and see if they maybe can order that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, good luck with it. I know y'all are going to love it, and your students will love it even more.
All right, well, thank you, Betsy.
Okay, well, good luck, and send me a message if something's missing.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a great one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.